Senate will come back to order. Let's do some more enrolled acts here. Signing of enrolled acts. Senate Enrolled Act number 40.
Enrolled Act number 40 being original Senate File 14, literacy position for K through 3 reading program, an act relating to the authorization of a full-time literacy position.
Thank you. About to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 40, being original Senate File 14. I've so signed. Senate Enrolled Act number 41.
Senate Enrolled Act number 41 being original Senate File 107, motor vehicle registration and plate issuance system, an act relating to motor vehicles.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 41, being original Senate File 107. I've so signed. Senate Enrolled Act number 42.
Senate Enrolled Act number 42 being original Senate File 70, omnibus water bill construction, an act relating to water development projects.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 42, being original Senate File 70. So signed. Senate Enrolled Act number 43.
Senate Enrolled Act number 43 being original Senate File 59, K through 12 language and literacy program, an act relating to language and literacy competency.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 43, being original Senate File 59. I've so signed. And Senate Enrolled Act number 44.
Senate Enrolled Act number 44 being original Senate File 56, an act relating to food and drugs.
I'm about to sign Senate Enrolled Act number 44, being original Senate File 56. I've so signed. All right. Bills on second reading. Thank you. House Bill 16, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 16, Secretary of State expedited filings, sponsored by blockchain.
Senate File 16 having been read two separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 39, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 39, Firearms Rights Restoration Amendments, sponsored by Representative Washington.
House Bill 39 having been read two separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 41, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 41, Wyoming Highway Patrol DCI and Warden Retirement Benefits Amendment, sponsored by Representative Webb.
House Bill 41 having been read two separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 43, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 43, Anti-Money Laundering, sponsored by Management Council.
House Bill 43 having been read two separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 44, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 44, Revisers Bill, sponsored by Management Council.
House Bill 44, having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 80, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 80, engrossed identification cards renewal for care facility residents, sponsored by Representative Jarvis.
House Bill 80, having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 83, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 83, legislative subpoena penalty, sponsored by Management Audit.
House Bill 83, having been read two separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 92, second reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 92, engrossed sexual predators prohibited from public office, sponsored by Representative Lucas.
There is an amendment. Would the reading clerk please read an amendment?
Second reading amendment number 1, page 1 above line 1.
Senator Case.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I would move second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 92. Mr. President, this bill's title is inflammatory. And I tried to figure out if there was a definition in law about the word sexual predator and what that means. That is, to me, it sounds like a monster. Sounds like someone we obviously can't trust and you know, insatiable. I can think of all sorts of horrible terms. But then I think, what does this bill really do? This bill goes and takes anyone who is a registered sex offender and disqualifies them from office. And even as the bill exists, prevents them from getting their rights restored with respect to the ability to hold office. And so I think the public thinks we're talking about these monsters out here, these sexual predators. But we're talking about people that may have had an encounter with the law, made a mistake in their lives, and are on the registry, because the registry is a very, very broad net, Mr. President. But not everyone on the registry would by any means be a sexual predator. And that is not a legal term. And this is inflammatory and deceptive. People are on the registry who you might call grandma and grandpa. If they were still alive today and one of them had been convicted for the crime. Up to just a few years ago, Mr. President, the way you got out of being convicted of this crime was to get married. In some cases, that's specific situations where a perpetrator is older than a juvenile. And so that's not all the cases. There's a whole broad range. Some are very terrible. But it is deceptive to have this bill's title be sexual predators prohibited from public office. I was looking for maybe a title like sexual predators and a lot of people you know who just made a mistake in their life 30 years ago, excluded from office. Too long of a title, Mr. President. This is what I came up with. I hope you'll support it.
Thank you. Discussion? Senator Scott.
Mr. President, this is an amendment not to the title, but to the catch title. And the catch title has no legal significance at all. What we really need to do with the catch titles is keep it short enough so that we can use them to just identify the bill. I really wonder, Mr. Chairman, do we want to make a practice out of amending catch titles?
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's an interesting topic, honestly, the good, tall senator's question, because when I started in the legislature, we didn't touch catch titles. And I know that some of my colleagues were in the legislature when the catch title was basically chosen for you, for good or bad. And that was to make sure that the catch title was objective and did not lead to some type of emotional debate or passion debate. It was communicating neutrally to the public, and that kept debate then focused on the contents of the bill. Over the last decade and a half, since I've been in the legislature, catch titles have now become under the control of legislators. So instead of accepting the one that LSO gives you, you can tweak the catch title to manipulate public opinion. And a lot of times we end up seeing this because it makes a bill sound good, even if the bill, as we would objectively determine, was not written particularly well. But it makes it very difficult to vote against the bill because the catch title is persuasive, even if the bill is not. And so I would say to the good tall senator's question about should we be editing the catch title, we probably shouldn't. But that would assume that we kind of travel back to our previous tradition of not determining the catch title on the bill draft and letting those be drafted objectively. I don't think we can have it both ways. I think if we're going to allow legislators to amend the catch title so that it sounds like the I Love Puppies Act or whatever the case may be, something which is really hard to argue with, then it becomes fair game. If the bill doesn't do that, we should be able to amend the catch title because that's the public opinion. And that's actually more persuasive to the general public, the folks that are listening at home that don't take the time and don't have the time, quite frankly, to read the entire bill. They're looking at the catch title and they're determining if they support the bill or should support the bill based on the catch title alone. So this is a big issue that the good tall senator brings up and my good friend from Lander brings up. You know, should we return to that prior practice of deferring on the catch title? Or alternatively, should we be allowed to set the catch title and then leave it subject to amendment in amendments such as this? At this point, I'm on and for the amendment because I do think that the amendment steers beyond the intent of the bill and the catch title change is consistent, quite frankly, with what the bill does. It does that accurately. It's not about sexual predators. It's about those offenders listed on the sex offender registry. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd have to pretty much agree with what the good senator just said there. Tell you a story quickly about a man that worked for me 20 years ago up in the great forest, frozen northeast of here. He came up to me from southern Mississippi. And he was a registered sex offender in southern Mississippi. He's a good man, hard worker. But when he was 17 years old and a senior in high school, he and his girlfriend were of a different race. Seems the girlfriend's father was the local sheriff. Now keep in mind, this is 40 years ago in the deep South. The day that Ronnie turned 18, the father charged him with statutory rape. He was convicted in the deep South for the wrong reasons, and he spent the next 40 years now as a registered sex offender. He's all right with that. He's learned to live with it. But is he a predator? Absolutely not. This title is misleading. I think the arguments are germane. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Anybody else sponsored? Do you wish to go for your second time? No? We're voting on second reading amendment number 9, excuse me. We're voting on second reading amendment number 1, the House Bill 92. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. No. Motion carries. The amendment has been adopted. We are back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. Seeing none. House Bill 92 having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 96, second reading of the House bill.
House Bill 96, carrying of concealed weapons, age requirement, sponsored by Representative Haroldson.
House Bill 96 having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 98, second reading of the House bill.
House Bill 98, Prohibit Red Flag Gun Seizure Act Penalty Amendment, sponsored by Representative Haroldson.
House Bill 98, having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 102, second reading of the House bill.
House Bill 102, engrossed, protecting kids from deep fakes and exploitive images, sponsored by Representative Lean.
House Bill 102, having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 120, second reading of the House bill.
House Bill 120, engrossed, Energy Product Reclassification and Sovereignty Act, sponsored by Representative Campbell.
There is an amendment. Would the reading clerk please read in the amendment?
House Bill 120, second reading, amendment number 1, page 1, line 7.
Senator Scott.
Mr. President, I move adoption of this amendment. Mr. President, this amendment is just a very simple little house cleaning. What it does is it removes the legislative findings provisions. Mr. President, we have a long tradition in this legislature of not having legislative findings and purpose clauses in acts. They've used them very rarely over the years. And we typically see them in model acts that come in, and the first committee they hit removes them, and that works just fine. And the argument, Mr. President, is that the act ought to be clear enough so that you can read it and tell exactly what it is and doesn't need to be buttressed with findings and purpose clauses. And frankly, Mr. President, I've been using them the past year or two when I see this sort of thing in a bill. I say that's a bill that has a problem in it somewhere. And that's not true of this bill. This is a good, strong bill. The findings are a little off the main topic of the bill, which is really enabling us to take advantage of an economic opportunity by getting the government out of the way and making it a partner instead of an obstacle to something that's going to be very good for our economy and frankly, Mr. President, also very good for our tax revenue. So what this does is it simply removes that and conform with our normal legislative policies, and we haven't been doing that the way we should in the past year or two because of the time pressures, particularly this session, Mr. President. But the amendment's extensive simply because they codified the findings instead of having them as a separate section. But that's all it does, is it removes the findings.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Discussion on the amendment? Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd agree with the good senator over here. This is a great bill. This cleans it up. Those findings don't need to be in our green book. The bill itself needs to be in the green book. It's a good amendment.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none. Question being called. We're voting on second reading amendment number 1, the House Bill 120. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. That motion carries. Second reading amendment number 1 has been adopted. Second reading amendment number 2.
House Bill 120, second reading, amendment number 2, page 9, line 18.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move second reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 120 and ask the body's favorable consideration. Mr. President, on page 9, this is the provision that provides the Department of Environmental Quality with the capacity to expedite permitting and licensing. This new language would amend that just to add some additional language which would allow the Department of Environmental Quality to pre-permit pursuant to rule permits or licenses required under this act to the extent that they can do so. And so it's a concept that I've actually talked with DEQ about for a while. Where can they actually try and get ahead of permitting so that ground is more shovel ready, more ready to go, expedite the process. So it's not to say that you can do it all the way. Regrettably, that's going to violate federal law, but there are certain steps that the department could take to have it ready for permitting or to pre-permit to whatever extent is possible. That would further expedite it and make it more attractive. So this just adds that capacity. It's not necessarily a shall, it's kind of a may language so that the department has the flexibility to do it where it would be available. Mr. President, I ask the body's favorable consideration.
Thank you. Discussion on the amendment. Senator Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. President. I had a long discussion just a little bit ago with the sponsor of this bill. He's very much in favor of what we're trying to do here. This is a pretty common practice as we go out in the oil and gas industry to pre-survey, if you will, ARC areas or paleontology areas or any other things that may or may not, wildlife surveys, whatever it may be. We go out and we blanket survey a whole area, and this just allows us to shorten that permitting process a little bit, get some of the pre-qualification work done, and it's a great idea.
Thank you, Senator Cooper. Further discussion? Since you're ready for the question, we're voting on second reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 120. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. Second reading amendment number 2 has been adopted. We're back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. Seeing none. House Bill 120 having been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 145, second reading of the House bill.
House Bill 145, engrossed, removing triple taxation for resident EV drivers, sponsored by Representative Yin.
There is an amendment. Would the reading clerk please read in the amendment?
House Bill 145, second reading, amendment number 1, page 1, line 8.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 145 and ask the body's favorable consideration. Mr. President, when we were discussing this on Committee of the Whole, the primary concern that the chamber seemed to have was related to the rebate of the alternative fuel tax and how that was performed and the amount of money that would provide, whereby it would lead to a total tax that was somewhat less than effectively an equivalent truck tax. So this amendment would repeal that rebate portion. So in other words, that concern with the rebate lowering the taxes below what a truck would end up paying, this would take that portion of the bill away, and the total taxes that the EV would pay would actually go up quite substantially. In my little model, I ended up with that being about $120 to $130 a year that it would go up by, and it would be substantially higher than a truck. I might come back with a third reading amendment tomorrow to try and make that equivalent to a truck and dial it in, and I'll work with members on that. But for now, this remedies the concerns that were raised yesterday with it going too low. This dials it in above. It also eliminates that rebate process, which some members thought might be a bureaucratic tax on our system and administrative hassle. So it just takes that out entirely. And you'll see what it does is it goes into page 17 and eliminates lines 20 through 23 entirely, which is that rebate provision, and then deletes page 18 entirely. So the rebate provision goes away, and I believe that was addressing specifically, Mr. President, the concern that was voiced yesterday during the Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. Discussion on the amendment. Senator Pappas.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any heartburn with this amendment, as long as I've been speaking with the bringer of this amendment, as long as the amendments that he's going to propose on third reading also come along. Because remember, this the rebate is on, if the bill would pass, the rebate is on the 3.5 cents for level 3 chargers. Because in-state people are paying $200 on the decal, which is more than a truck or a gasoline vehicle pays. So this is still double taxation, but I understand what the bringer wants to do. And so this amendment would go well with a third reading amendment that I think he's going to propose. So I think I'm good with it. So if the body wants to go ahead and pass it, that's fine with me. I did have a couple of questions at first reading. One from the good senator from Laramie County. She asked how much revenue, if this bill passed, would we garner? And so some information from the fuel tax manager at the Wyoming Fuel Tax Administration. And they provided a guesstimate using some loose methodology, using 3 months of collection data on level 3. We have 2 types of chargers in the state, Tesla chargers and what are called Electrify America level 3 chargers. So using the 3 months of data, and if you put 3.5 cents per kilowatt hour on it, that amounts to $62,000. And so for the Electrify America, you can double that. So we're talking about $120,000 annualized, okay? And then we did have another, oh, by the way, total revenue for the level 2 chargers that came in, because not many of them are metered, was only $945 for 3 months. So we're not even looking at $4,000 for annualized for level 2 chargers. And then the second, I think Senator Kolb asked about the alternative fuel, how many vehicles were in the state. I believe that was Senator Kolb. Someone asked how many vehicles we have in the state. And according to the U.S. Department of Energy Alternative Fuel Tax Center, this is 2024 data. Wyoming has 1,500 EVs. It has 1,000 plug-in hybrids and 9,800 pure hybrids. And just for a comparison, we have just under 500,000 gasoline vehicles and about 61,000 diesel vehicles. So I think I answered the questions that were posed.
Thank you, Senator. Further discussion, Senator Cole.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the work done by the good senator over the Hill. The only question I had, and I hadn't had a chance to read all this in, it does then contemplate taking care of hybrid vehicles that we had spoken about, and then also the level 2 chargers commercially. So the other issue with level 2 chargers is you can have those at your house, a level 2 charger, right? And of course, then you're paying for it's in Wyoming, and you're paying for your extra $200 on your plate. So that's kind of covered in my eyes. But just had those questions, Mr. President.
Senator, anybody else before the bill sponsor? All right, Senator Rothfuss for your second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the amendment for my second time, this doesn't change anything with regard to the level 2 chargers or with the plug-in hybrids, which were already in the bill. So the plug-in hybrid decals in the bill, the level 2 does not see the taxation of the 3.5 cents. So that was unchanged. I didn't hear that objection at all in committee of the whole. So I just left those as they were, Mr. President.
All right, we're voting on second reading amendment number 1 of House Bill 145. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. That motion motion carries. That amendment has been adopted. We are back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. House Bill 145 haven't been read 2 separate times. The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. House Bill 178, second reading of the House bill.
House Bill 178, engrossed public unions, transparency and dues withdrawal limitations, sponsored by Representative Williams.
There is an amendment. Would the reading clerk please read in the amendment?
House Bill 178, second reading, amendment number 1, page 9, line 1.
Senator Jones.
Mr. President, I move second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 178. This is just a quick little amendment just to give the involved parties a little bit more time to get their ACH or whatever form of payment they're going to use switched over.
Thank you. Discussion on the amendment? Senator Boner.
Thank you, Mr. President. This seems like an okay amendment, so vote your conscience. Probably wouldn't be okay with pushing it much further back than this, but this is only a couple months, so go ahead and vote your conscience, I'd say.
Okay. Anybody else? Since you're ready for the question, we're voting on second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 178. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. Motion carries. Second reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 178 has been adopted. Back on the bill, discussion on the bill. Senator Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a few more important points, I think, to think about before third reading. At the end of the day, I think the Senate is going to have to decide if it's the role of government to tell hardworking Wyomingites how to spend their money. There's still a lot of legal concerns with this bill, especially since if you look at the history, there's been some other states that have walked back on theirs. So I'm asking, I guess, why would we risk public employees and retirees' ability to contribute to their retirement and receive services such as health care and insurance? Why would we do that? Paycheck deductions in Wyoming are always voluntary, and they're a convenience for the organizations that serve them. Wyoming's public employees are not just the people who teach our kids, but they're also the people that fight our fires and maintain our roads. They feed our kids, they maintain our buildings, they take care of our legislature. We know that this is a national bill from one of the organizations on the East Coast who really shouldn't have a dog in the fight. In fact, if you do a little research on one of the organizations, one of them that's pushing this legislation are the reason that we have Citizens United. And those are the folks that allow dark money to flow into our elections. What's kind of hypocritical about it is that they don't even disclose their members, but they wanted, before this legislation, the amendments came through, they wanted some groups to do that. And they also support and endorse various candidates. So it's very hypocritical on their part. So the thing is, many of our neighbors and friends are going to be negatively affected by this legislation, not just the ones that the bill is targeting. They're also taxpayers, and they provide valuable services to our state. So let's just not have another bill that's going to end up in the courts. We are a right-to-work state. Let's give our Wyoming workers, all of them, the freedom to decide what they do with their money that they've earned. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Schuler. Senator Cole.
Yeah, I'll go back on the bill. Yeah, so after the amendment, now we stripped away all those other reporting requirements. The issue is that we're expending state resources, and we are. And I would say that the majority of the state is non-union, frankly. And why should the other folks in the state with their taxpayer dollars pay for this service when in the year 2026, you can have withdrawals taken out of your account to pay for whatever you like? I think we have the right and freedom to do that. Back in 1965, when we're just talking about the fire unions came around, there was no really easy way of doing it. Well, we don't live in that time right now. We live in this year where it's very easy to do. You can spend your money however you like. That's your right to do whatever you want with it. But I think when we expend resources, so it's more than just, oh, it doesn't cost anything. It does cost something. From the electricity that runs the systems, from the people, from the updates we have to pay for the software programs, for everything that goes along with actually doing it, and the people that actually run the system. It does take monetary value to do this. And I go back to the simple thought that why should we spend money from the taxpayers that receive no benefit for this to benefit a few? It seems prejudicial to me to do that. So I think what's fair for one is fair for all. I intend to bring a third reading amendment to bring in the firefighters group, that just as in respect to the automatic dues withdrawal, not to respect to anything else. Because I think they made a good point. Why is it just, let's say a sector? Well, I think it should be for everyone. I don't know why we would pick and choose like that. I think that seems to be a little bit not equal treatment. So I think there's a way of handling it, make this a little bit better. But I think to say there's no cost is I don't see that. I can't see the numbers working out to be that way. So on and for the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Cole.
President.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I appreciate that last thought of making it equitable and making it apply to all. If we're going to have a program and we're concerned about the idea that we're providing special benefits to some groups, then we shouldn't provide to any group. So that fairness, we'll look forward to that amendment on third reading. But the concern that I do have, and I asked about it in the previous debate, I guess I'd like the answer. How much does this cost? what is the cost to the public, what is the cost to the state for these minor little entries? And, Mr. President, the further question is, with the elimination of all of this, there's going to be a definitive action where all of the different school systems, all of the different departments, all of the different potentially fire stations are actually going to have to go in and undo all of the work they did. So if we're worried about the administrative cost, if that's something that's directing our policy and making us spend this much time debating it, taking away the rights of these individuals, these hardworking Wyomingites, to just have a simple transaction take place on their behalf, very simple transaction. But if we're so worried about the people of the state, because this is costly, again, a cost that's unidentified, not quantified, no fiscal note, no answer yet. But if we're worried about that, why wouldn't we be worried about forcing everyone on the system to change their system to undo it, which sounds like substantially more work than anything we've suggested so far? It doesn't just go away if you stop. Somebody has to go in and do the work to stop it. So perhaps a little more clarification on how many resources we are wasting in the state when we talk about this again on third reading. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Rothfuss. Further discussion? All right, seeing none. House Bill 178, having been read 2 separate times, the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. Looks like we got a couple joint conference committees here. Let's see. Joint Conference Committee reports.
Joint Conference Committee report, Senate File 45, local approval for simulcasting reference House Message number 217, suspend further reading. Senators Olson, Kriegel, and Kolb. Representatives Lean, Chestick, and Guggenmos.
Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to Senate File 45, and I'll ask for your aye vote on it. Folks, this bill came back to us from the House with 2 amendments. One was a pretty substantial substantive change dealing with essentially with a due process or appeal process, and the other dealt with monetary fees. The House receded from its position on the due process or the appeal amendment, so that was a pretty big victory for our side. And then we decided to negotiate on the fee language, and we didn't adopt it exactly as the House had originally proposed it. We modified that language. So essentially, what we're saying is that if you're applying for a permit or a renewal, you can be charged by the county or city up to the actual costs of whatever it costs to get that permit or renewal, and not a penny more. And that's the report, and I'll ask for your aye vote.
Thank you. Discussion on the conference committee report. Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Yeah, this is the culmination of years of work. We won our position on this concurrence. I think it's basically the way the bill left us. So I would ask for your aye vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Kolb. Senator Pappas.
Yeah, just a point of order. Is there a way we can get it brought up on our electronic? None, this one and the next one are not on there. The one we're speaking of, message 214 on Senate File 45.
Yeah, right now we're on House Message number 217, Joint Conference Committee Report for our Senate File 45. Senator Rothfuss, point of order.
Yeah, on the point of order, if you go to the meeting schedule for the legislature, the Joint Conference Committee reports are at the bottom of that. So this is before you go specifically into the Senate. You look at the calendar and then the specific meeting day. You'll see the floor calendars for both chambers, Senate and House, the committee meetings for the day, which are obviously all the interim studies. And that's where the joint conference committee reports come up.
Thank you, Senator Rothfuss. Senator Pappas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I thought they were coming up on they typically come up on our main feed, so. But now I know where I can find them. Thank you.
Thank you. And Senator Crago? Do you have?
Just quick point of clarification, Mr. President. I think the easiest way to find them is under amendments. If you go to the bill number, go to amendments, it'll show up right there under conference committee report.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Two ways
President.
to skin that cat. All right. Further discussion on the conference committee report? Seeing none. The motion is that the Senate do adopt the joint conference committee report referencing Senate File 45 and vote aye. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1, Senate File 45. Anderson? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Boner? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? Aye. Cooper? Aye. Crago? Aye. Crum? Aye. Dockstader? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. French? Aye. Guru? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? No. Jones? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. Love? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Olson? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Pearson? Aye. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? Aye. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to Senate File 45. 30 aye, 1 no.
By your vote, you have adopted the joint conference committee report number 1 to Senate File 45. All right, joint conference committee report number 1 referencing Senate File 88.
Joint Conference Committee Report, Senate File 88, Sex Offenders Residents Near Child Care Facilities, reference House Message Number 238. Suspend further reading, signed Senators Salazar, Crago, and Hicks. Representatives Washut, Filer, and Singh.
Thank you, Senator Crago.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of the Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1 to Senate File 88. Ask you to vote aye. So, Mr. President, we went down, had a conversation with our friends down the hall. There were 3 amendments put onto this particular Senate file by our friends down the hall. We had concerns with all of the amendments in that they created different standards for schools versus childcare facilities. And we were concerned how that would put our law enforcement folks in a bind in trying to determine how to look at all of these different standards, whether it was a school or a facility. Our original bill, as it left here, had one standard applied equally to both. And so our friends down the hall agreed. We did. One of their amendments was a good housekeeping amendment, and you will see that on the conference committee report. And so we deleted all of their amendments and further amended their good housekeeping amendment back in. I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Senator Crago, for that explanation. Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to thank the good senator. I was chairing the joint appropriations and just wanted to shout out to thank him again for his fine work on this bill. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, discussion on the conference committee report. Seeing none, the motion is that the Senate do adopt the joint conference committee report number 1 referencing Senate File 88 and vote aye. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Senate File 88, Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1. Anderson? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Boner? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? No. Cooper? Aye. Crago? Aye. Crum? Aye. Dockstader? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. French? Aye. Guru? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. Love? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Olson? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Pearson? Aye. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? Aye. President Biteman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing vote closed. Senate File 88, Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1, 29 aye, 2 no.
By your vote, you have adopted the Joint Conference Committee Report Number 1, the Senate File 88. Thank you. All right. Bills on third reading and final passage. House Bill 122, third reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 122, engrossed, Wyoming Rural Health Transformation Program, an act relating to the Federal Rural Health Transformation Program funds, sponsored by appropriations.
Thank you. Are there no amendments? I don't see an amendment on there. There are none? I thought there were. Senator Scott.
Mr. President, has the amendment been read in?
No, in fact, I thought you had told me there was going to be an amendment, but there's not one attached to the bill jacket, but now I have it, so can we have that amendment read in, please?
House Bill 122, third reading, amendment number 1, page 27, after line 12.
All right, Senator Scott.
Mr. President, move adoption of the amendment. Mr. President, I ask my colleagues in the Senate to pay careful attention here because we've got a decision to make and there's two reasonable approaches to it. The amendment was developed as a result of the briefings that were had with the health department on this healthcare transformation and the difficulties they're having with getting an agreement from the federal government, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, which is a particularly difficult bureaucracy to deal with. In the meeting, there was discussion, we might have to have a special session to implement any agreement that they reached. And that didn't sound like a good idea to me, so I went and looked at the bill carefully, and there's a whole bunch of percentages as to where the funding goes in there that are very specific and are likely to get changed if there is an agreement. And with what the amendment does is say, okay, it gives the governor authority to alter those percentages, report back to us, gives the governor some guidance, that the governor gives special consideration to whether the proposed agreement of the federal government makes deviations necessary, meaningfully aids Wyoming in addressing the long-term problems created by high fixed costs for healthcare-related services. That's a statement of the basic strategy the state has in trying to get CMS to agree. We're trying to deal with those long-term costs. We're trying to deal with them long-term, and those are the sticking issues. Mr. Chairman, the final point is that if the federal government won't agree, we'll deal we may have to start looking at other ways of dealing with those high fixed costs, and they're the basis for the way CMS discriminates against Wyoming in particularly the Medicare reimbursements, which is often over half the book of business in a hospital. So, Mr. Chairman, this amendment would prevent the need for a special session. Now, after the amendment was approved, a few minutes before we convened, we got word from one of my colleagues, brought it, and he may well want to speak to this, that the governor thinks that the amendment might undermine his negotiating position. And that's important. If the negotiating position is high stakes, we're prepared to walk away if they don't agree. Then the amendment might undermine that. And this is a hard bureaucracy to deal with. In my experience, it is one of the worst bureaucracies in all of the federal government. And I talked to our U.S. Senator that was involved in the provision that got in the bill, and his intention was to take care of the high costs that we were dealing with in our hospitals that are getting a lot of our hospitals in trouble, and the CMS regulations are such you can't do that very well with it. So this is a tough proposition, Mr. President, and I think you can, if you say, well, we're willing to have a high stakes, back the governor in a high stakes thing, then we ought to reject the amendment. If you think, no, let's try to get a deal with those guys and give the governor flexibility so he can make a deal work, then you vote for the amendment. The last provision doesn't require the governor to do very much. It just says there is another stick in the closet if we eventually have to use it. So, Mr. Chairman, it's a matter of your judgment. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions and summarize, but I would sure encourage the others involved to speak up a little.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Discussion on the amendment. Senator Grew.
Thank you, Mr. President. On and against, reluctantly, on and against the amendment. My able and learned friend from Bates Creek summed it up quite clearly, actually. Since this bill, and I am talking about the amendment, but I have to do it, I have to kind of talk a little bit about the bill, if you don't mind, a little latitude, Mr. President. Since this plan came together and was submitted in November and approved on December 29th by the administration, it landed with us at your Joint Appropriations Committee. As I said when we started this, we wanted you, the legislature, to have input on this bill. We worked it and we took out some things, we added some things, it came together. It's been through the other end of the hall without any changes. And it comes to you today without any changes until this amendment. And the author of the amendment brings up some points, and he alluded to them, that giving a little bit of wiggle room here and a little wiggle room there might prevent us to have to come back and make some decisions in a month or two. We don't know. The negotiations are ongoing. But there's another train of thought, and those of you in business know it quite well. The best negotiating position when you're going in is kind of a hard line, and then moving through the negotiation, see where the points are. If you start giving things away, you are negotiating with yourself. And that's something I know as a landman, I know as a business person, we don't like to do, Mr. Chairman. We don't like to give our position away when we start. And that's why I ask you to resist this amendment. This by taking this out, leaving it the way it is now, may very well mean we have to come back. But it gives the folks in our Department of Health and on the first floor the best possible position to negotiate what's actually a very tricky negotiation with a very large amount of money, hundreds of millions of dollars over the next few years in the department that we call health, that are very, very important to the long-term future of this state. It can be, actually, what they've come up with is actually groundbreaking in its artfulness as far as how to put this process together and how to spend this money effectively over a longer period of time. Many states have been looking at this and trying. Many states will watch and see what happens here. I dare say many people are listening right now to this debate on both sides of this, wondering what we're going to do. I urge you to resist this amendment. Let this bill move forward just the way your Joint Appropriations Committee worked it through and went through the other body whole, and give this process a chance to work. Be glad to stand for any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I reluctantly also am against this amendment. Let's give our state all the power and all the flexibility to negotiate in a position of power, so that we can get the best that we can. I ask that you vote no.
Further discussion? Senator Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd also ask for a no vote on this amendment. The bill, as is written, is very thoughtful, and it really takes into consideration the areas of shortage, the needs, and what we need very specific to Wyoming and our healthcare, and what can be done to transform that. And so with that, Mr. President, I think that this bill gives good orders to our departments, our executives, and says, this is what we want, fought for, and I stand by that.
Thank you, Senator Brennan. Further discussion on the amendment before the sponsor? All right, back to you, Senator Scott, for your second time.
Mr. President, and I thank the senators for thoughtful debate on this. Mr. President, I would emphasize that the health department has done an excellent job in this area. They have identified and prioritized one of the main reasons that we're having so much trouble with our healthcare facilities. It's the high fixed costs, which are inevitable in Wyoming, Mr. President, because with our distances and low population, we simply cannot get the volumes to offset those high fixed costs. And they are also trying to stretch out the federal money so that it can be more than just a temporary fix. And I think the department has done an excellent job in getting a proposal. You're dealing with a very difficult bureaucracy, one of the worst in the federal government. One that needs some hard attention that some of the other bureaucracies got, and this one didn't. If we don't give the governor some wiggle room, I think it's going to be very difficult to get an agreement. We may have to come, I think we will have to come back. I think there's a significant chance that the state will be unable to come to agreement with CMS and have to walk away, Mr. President, from a legislative fix that was properly designed to try to fix our problems and is not being properly implemented by that bureaucracy. So this is a serious matter. I appreciate the serious debate. Mr. President, I'm not going to urge you to vote one way or another, but vote understanding what the position you take is. Because it is to endorse a very hard line in dealing with that bureaucracy. And that may be entirely appropriate.
Thank you, Senator Scott. We're voting on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 122. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. That motion has failed. The amendment has failed. We're back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. Oh, Senator Ide.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I said before on this bill, I'm on and against it. It just creates another government program. We've got to facilitate $500 million. Makes us more dependent on federal funding with a federal government that's $40 trillion in debt and basically insolvent. So with that, I would encourage your no vote on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Senator Garou?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Urge and I vote, but I want to talk a little bit, make sure everybody understands, this is one of the more important pieces of legislation we'll deal with in this session. It has far-reaching effects. It really does. And to say that, the department who put this program together, when it was approved at the end of December, it'd have been very easy for the chief executive just to take the money and then B11 it back to the department and have it go forward. It was within his rights. A federal program didn't come in. They asked us to put our stamp on it. There were things that we took out that we didn't like and voted on it. I have to be perfectly honest. This may come as a shock to none of you, that I'm not the biggest fan of this administration. But when it got passed, when we finished, and my chairman came over and said, I want you to take this bill. Why am I carrying the water on this one? Because it wasn't something I was particularly wild about. But I just want to tell you, Mr. President, and the body altogether, that when given that assignment, I take it. Just like yesterday, when I was given the reviser's bill, as I always do, I take it and I do it. I do it because I'm asked to do it. There's a rule that says that we have to read it in, and I read it in. I try to do it a little bit of a joke, but the bottom line, Mr. Chairman and Mr. President, is that I always try to take my responsibilities here very seriously. And while I don't mind being cast in a different light because I do it, is of no consequence to me. But I want to make sure that the body knows that I do take this job very seriously. And working on this bill with the appropriations, my appropriations committee, I've seen their wisdom come forward in this, and I appreciate it. And I urge you to support it. This is groundbreaking stuff, and I know everyone's worked really hard on it, and I appreciate your vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Garou. Let's go to Senator Scott. Sorry to make you sit back down there.
Mr. President, on and for the bill. This is a major bill. It does involve, there's a potential for some new government programs here. The CMS is trying to force them on it. But basically, Mr. President, this bill is trying to deal with a problem that our existing government programs, particularly the Medicare program, have given us, and that this bureaucracy has given us. And the time for going a different route passed, Mr. Chairman, well before any of us were ever here. We've gone down this route to where the government is a major player in healthcare. I will say, when you look at the statistics in terms of the outcome, it is embarrassing, because we are much more expensive in our healthcare in the United States than any other developed country in the world. much more expensive. And we have the worst results. You look at mortality, morbidity, we're at the bottom. Our system is not working. And it is not working here in Wyoming. And our health department, I think, in developing its proposal, which is reflected with some changes, I understand, in this bill, has done a very good job of trying to deal with the situation we're in with just impossible situation with the federal government, Mr. President. So I think we need to pass this bill to do our best to support them, realizing they're in the middle of a high-stakes negotiation that could well blow up or force us to come back. So, Mr. President, on and for the bill, it is something we need to do. And if maybe we should have gone a different route 60, 70 years ago, we didn't. The society has gone the other way, and we've got to deal with the consequences.
Thank you, Senator Scott. Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. President. On and for the bill. I have never wanted and don't support unfunded mandates. I don't want the state holding the bag for more programs that we're responsible for after federal money is gone. That's why we want the legislature involved. That's why your Joint Appropriations Committee wrote it this way. I believe it protects us. I ask for your support.
Thank you. Further discussion? Question being called. House Bill 122, having been read 3 separate times. The question is, shall this bill pass the Senate? The Assistant Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Third reading roll call, House Bill 122. Anderson? Aye. Barlow? No. Boner? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? Aye. Cooper? Aye. Craigo? Aye. Crum? Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. French? Aye. Garou? Aye. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? No. Ide? No. Jones? Aye. Kolb? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. Love? Aye. McEwen? No. Nethercott? Aye. Olson? Aye. Pappas? Aye. Pearson? No. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? Aye. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? Aye. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 122, 26 aye, 5 no.
House Bill 122, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, House Bill 122 has passed the Senate. House Bill 126, third reading of the House Bill.
House Bill 126, engrossed Human Heartbeat Act, an act relating to public health and safety, sponsored by Representative Nyman.
Are there any amendments? Seeing none. Is there any discussion on the bill? No discussion? Call for the question. House Bill 126, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall the bill pass the Senate? The Assistant Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Third reading roll call, House Bill 126. Anderson? Aye. Barlow? Aye. Boner? Aye. Brennan? Aye. Case? No. Cooper? Aye. Craigo? Aye. Crum? Aye. Dockstetter? Aye. Driscoll? Aye. French? Aye. Garou? No. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Kolb? Aye. Landon? Aye. Larson? Aye. Love? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Olson? Aye. Pappas? I. Pearson. I. Rothfuss. No. Salazar. I. Schuler. I. Scott. No. Steinmetz. I. President Beitman.
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 126, 27 aye, 4 no.
House Bill 126, having received the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, House Bill 126 has passed the Senate. House Bill 130, third reading of the House bill.
House Bill 130, engrossed Second Amendment Protection Act amendments, an act relating to the protection of constitutional rights, sponsored by Representative Worf.
There are amendments. Would the reading clerk please read in the first amendment?
House Bill 130, third reading, amendment number 1, page 6, after line 18.
Senator Hicks.
Mr. President, I move third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 130 and would ask for your favorable consideration. You know, I'm not going to belabor, but we had a long discussion, I believe yesterday, about this particular item, or 2 days ago, about what constitutes an interested party to be able to file a lawsuit against local jurisdictions, Ohio law enforcement. And having looked through the issue and the discussion we had, because there is no clear definition, while interested parties used in the statutes in a number of places, it's still not necessarily a legal term of art as far as definitions. But when we do go into statutes, we do have some definitions out there for aggrieved parties. And so what it basically does is, my concern here all along is, as we say, an interested party. I'm not exactly sure who that is in the context of this. Is it somebody out of state? Who is that? An aggrieved party, if we look at some of those definitions, it will narrow the pool of potential people that could actually litigate. But it's basically, an aggrieved party means a person that, because they've suffered some type of damages or could be suffering some type of damages associated with that action. So, members of the body, I think what I'm trying to do here, and I think we can accomplish this, is say, look, this no way precludes anybody that's been harmed or potentially harmed associated with an action by local law enforcement to be able to come in and pursue civil actions against those local jurisdictions associated with actions by law enforcement. So it does narrow it up a little bit, but I think it narrows it up to the point where I think it's kind of what we want to accomplish here versus just a broad brush of any interested party. So members of the body, I would ask for favorable consideration on this amendment.
Discussion, Senator Olson.
I can't resist not piling on to this good amendment. So, you know, interested party is typically language that's used in our appellate world in judicial review, and it means someone other than the claimant or the defendant. It's a third party who's injured by the law, the statute, whatever it may be. So I don't think it's appropriate. It's not appropriate for the bill for that matter. Aggrieved party is any person who's injured by the statute generally. So that fits exactly what this bill is trying to do. So I'm not sure how interested party even ended up in there, but it's a good catch by the senator from wherever you're from, Carbon County.
Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I don't know if the good senator that brought the amendment, I'm just looking here, 1-37103, there is a definition in statute of right of interest. What does it say here? Right of interested party to have determination made. So there's a statute in there, so I guess I'm confused of why this is necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I think it depends what definitions you look at, but finding random definitions of words in the entire Wyoming statutory code is not advisable. Don't do it. Because it applies to very different circumstances, to different applications. So while I agree with the senator from Laramie County that aggrieved party can apply in appellate cases, it can also apply to anyone who's actually been personally harmed. and likely has more standing than an interested party. To my gun rights friends and pro-2A folks, if you broaden it up too much, the enemy may be welcomed in as an interested party to challenge 2A litigation. If you limit it to those whose rights have been infringed, i.e. the aggrieved party, you may be limiting the scope of the type of litigation that may be presented before the court, weeding out those who would want to damage your 2A rights. So harder, not smarter, my friends, harder, not smarter. There may be some wisdom in the amendment.
Further discussion? Senator Craigo.
Yeah, just, I guess if all the other lawyers are gonna pile on, Mr. President, thought I should join in. So if you look at 137-103, it is referencing what we call a declaratory judgment action, which is where you file an action to have your rights determined. It does not include damages. And the provision we're dealing with in the particular bill draft before us today has to do with actually seeking damages. And so I think that's an important distinction when we start talking about an interested party. And if you actually go read 137-103, you'll see what I'm talking about, Mr. President, and you'll see the distinction. It's talking about deeds, wills, written contracts, or other writings. And it goes on to talk about statutes, municipal ordinances, contracts, or franchises. But what you're asking the court to do at that point as an interested party is determine your rights. But you're not asking for damages. You're not seeking attorney's fees. It's a very discrete right you're asking for, and it's a very discrete determination you're asking for. So I think just for all of our edifications, it's important to know what the statute actually says and what we're talking about. It does not include a definition. It just says an interested party may seek a declaration. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Further discussion on the amendment before the sponsor? Sponsor is ready for the question. We're voting on third reading amendment number 1 to House Bill 130. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. That motion carries. Third reading amendment number 1 has been adopted. Third reading amendment number 2.
House Bill 130, third reading amendment number 2, delete.
Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think the first thing I need to do with this amendment is divide it.
Actually, the first thing you gotta do is move it if you wanna vote on it.
I stand corrected. The first thing I need to do is move the amendment.
All right.
I move third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 130 and ask for your favorable consideration.
Floor is yours, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
I'd like to divide the amendment, Division 1, line 1 until line 2 entirely, and Division 2, delete till the end.
Okay, that is divisible. Which division would you like to speak to first?
2, please.
Okay, proceed.
Ladies and gentlemen, this amendment would remove language that was adopted into the bill yesterday. The core of this bill is adding civil penalties that allow a gun owner to defend his rights in the event that a jurisdiction enforces federal gun laws. We already have criminal penalties. This just adds civil penalties, and it's important. Yesterday's amendment requires the loser in a court action to pay all the court costs and fees that a municipality would incur in a civil suit under this section. That's not what we're trying to do with this bill, and it provides a huge chilling effect. If we throw this financial roadblock, the average gun owner in Wyoming won't even try to take jurisdiction to civil court because they simply can't afford it. I have confidence in our courts to dismiss bogus or frivolous cases that are filed early in the process. We don't need this penalty provision in this bill. It defeats the purpose of this legislation and is not what gun owners in my district want to see. We have a pro-gun administration in DC right now, and that may not last much longer. We need to get this right, and I say, please vote yes on this amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator McEwen. We are on division number 2. Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President, on Division 2, well, first thing, this is a state law. This is not something that's going to happen at the Washington, D.C. level. That'll happen regardless of whatever state laws we have, and so we're talking about state law now. But here's the consequences that I have to face, is I represent probably more small communities than anybody in the state of Wyoming. So think about those little towns of 80 that have an entire budget of $178,000 a year that employ a part-time law enforcement officer, and somehow they get swept up in this, and then there's a lawsuit. You're talking about a third of their entire budget could be awarded for potentially just an honest, inadvertent mistake. And so I have to, and my responsibility as an elected official is look after the people I represent. My average population for the 14 municipalities that I represent is less than 400 people. This may not sound like a lot of money when you're talking about some of our larger municipalities or very mineral wealth counties, but I'm telling you, this is a big deal for these little bitty communities out there to have this threat hanging over their head that they're going to get in a situation. They're really worried that they're even going to hire law enforcement officers even on a part-time basis, because it presupposes them to potential frivolous lawsuits. And to the issue that somebody that's aggrieved is not going to be able to afford it, I will guarantee you there is enough organizations out there that if they see an opportunity, they're going to come in there and they're going to cover all of the legal expenses for those individuals if they think there's any opportunity that they're going to prevail in that lawsuit. This amendment, Mr. President, is designed for one thing. It's to level the playing field and keep it fair and prevent frivolous lawsuits. On and against the amendment.
Okay, we're on Division 2. Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I won't carry on here. I think the bringer of the amendment did a good job. I'm on and for the amendment. And I'd like to request the ayes and nays on this vote. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
President.
Ayes and nays have been called. All right, Senator Cooper. Division 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to reiterate what the senator over here in the southwest corner just had to say. I have 11 of these small communities, and some of them literally run out of a shoebox, out of the clerk's closet. They don't have money, don't have any extra money, and to put this kind of a burden on these communities is just, they just flat become unincorporated very quickly. It's not somewhere we go. I support the Second Amendment heavily, but I do also support my communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Kolb on Division 2.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. On and against, and I was talking a broad way, my sheriff is going to refuse to take ICE holds. So if we want to talk about what the ramifications of this whole thing is, I want to talk about that. And call the ayes and nays, fine. I'll tell you exactly the way I feel. I think this is wrong. I think we're trying to solve a problem we don't have. I think it's just whooping things up to a point where it doesn't need to be elevated. This is not helpful. My law enforcement folks are good people. We actually have ICE holds that go into Utah and Colorado. And my sheriff feels the liability is so great on the interaction of some inadvertent situation, he's named 5 of them, that can come up when you're trying to interact in good faith and then get yourself in a bind, the officers and the administration, and having legal consequences for that with no desire to, infringe on someone's Second Amendment rights. So these are tricky things. So just to be very clear, on and against. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. We're talking about ice holds, correct? Just kidding, it was a joke, bad joke. It sounded like something else, I was just being funny.
I'll reiterate.
Thank you. Just trying to lighten the mood a little bit. Just me being a bad dad joke teller. Senator Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. President. On in support of Division 2. I don't think, if this is not successful, I'm not quite sure what's left of the bill. I'm familiar with this bill. I put my name on it a year ago. But if this Division 2 doesn't pass, I don't know really what's left with the intent of this bill. And I ask that people think long and hard and vote aye.
Thank you, Senator Salazar. Senator Nethercott.
Mr. President, vote it up, vote it down, but there's significantly a great deal left to the bill. It simply says if you bring the lawsuit and you lose, you have to pay. And that does deter, you have to pay costs, fees and costs, right? That's it. You don't pay the government some damage award. You just pay what it costs. That deters frivolous suits. I mean, that's an incentive for people who have to be serious about wanting to sue. That's all it does. It doesn't eliminate the ability for the person to pursue the legal remedy from the government for a violation of their constitutional right. That is still the bill and still exists, and so the bill is still incredibly powerful. But I mean, you have to, just from a pragmatic perspective, some of the cases that come before the courts, these are individuals who may be or have been convicted of a crime. They have nothing else to do. They'll sue pro se. This will jeopardize gun rights. But who am I to give a warning? But they'll sue pro se, right? And they can sue vexatiously to do that, and this happens all the time. But this is one area that we can save probably one full-time position in the AG's office, or a contract position through your local government liability pool to kind of reduce that. So I don't think it hurts the bill. It is a meaningful deterrent, vote it up or vote it down, but it is a consideration pragmatically on the ground when you understand that the likelihood of the law-abiding citizen doing, this heroic measure, and law enforcement takes their guns and they're gonna sue and lose is just probably not the most realistic scenario we've seen. It's more likely somebody who is in prison, nothing else to do, and they file lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. But vote it up, vote it down. The roll call's been asked for, so you know what to do, senators.
Further discussion, we're on Division 2. Senator Cooper, sorry.
Thank you. Just, he's the one with hair. Excuse me. Just for clarity, an aye vote overrules the Hicks Amendment, a no vote sustains the Hicks Amendment.
Yes, correct. So Division 2, just to remind the body, so if you look at your amendment, we're on third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 130. Division 2 is on lines 2 and 3. It starts with, and it says, delete the Hicks second reading amendment, and it gives the number entirely. So that's what an aye vote deletes the second reading amendment from yesterday.
Thank you.
Just so we're clear. Further discussion on Division 2. Senator McEwen, for your second time.
For my second time. Thank you, Mr. President. I think it was said that this isn't anything to do with the federal government. It's just a state law. Well, it's kind of a state law to keep the federal government from using our law enforcement agents to grab guns. So I think there is a federal issue to this. On the other point that was made, if outside agencies will truly fund these lawsuits, what does this amendment do? All the outside agencies are going to show up and pay for it anyway. So on and for the amendment, and I would ask for an aye vote.
All right. Thank you, Senator McEwen. We're on Division 2 to third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 130. The yeas and nays have been called. The Assistant Chief Clerk will call the roll.
House Bill 130, third reading amendment number 2, Division 2. Anderson? No. Barlow? No. Boner? No. Brennan? No. Case? No. Cooper? No. Crago? No. Crum? No. Dockstetter? No. Driscoll? No. French? Aye. Garou? Aye. Hicks? No. Hutchings? No. Ide? Aye. Jones? No. Kolb? No. Landon? No. Larson? Aye. Love? No. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? No. Olson? No. Pappas? No. Pearson? No. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? No. Scott? No. Steinmetz? No. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 130, second reading amendment number, or third reading amendment number 2, Division 2, 7 ayes, 24 noes.
Third reading amendment number 2, Division 2 has failed. We are on Division 1. Senator McEwen.
Thank you, Mr. President. On Division 1, I think I'll steal somebody else's quote. I can count, so I'll withdraw it. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Division number 1 to third reading amendment number 2 to House Bill 30 has been withdrawn. We are back on the bill. Discussion on the bill. Senator Driscoll.
Quick statement. You know, I watched this go back and forth, and I find myself in an interesting place. I'm big on the Second Amendment, but anytime every law enforcement officer in every area I represent stands against it, I'm going to stand up to the national lobbyist and say no. I'll stand with my law enforcement. I encourage you to vote no.
Senator Crum.
Mr. President, follow up on our good friend from Devil's Tower. If I understand this bill correctly, if it says a peace officer, which would include a normal police officer, state park officer, game and fish officer, if they are asked by our federal government to do something and our state law is different, then they could go to jail, if I'm reading that correctly. So that's a question, make sure I'm reading that correctly. I know I stand up here every morning, put my hand over my heart, and say I pledge allegiance to that flag. I don't say I pledge allegiance to the state of Wyoming. I took an oath to follow the Constitution of the state of Wyoming, but I say the pledge allegiance to that flag. And the US government, who I pledge to. And if I'm gonna throw a police officer in jail or fine a police officer for following what I say pledge allegiance to, then I'm not honoring my pledge. I am against this bill because I think it's an overreach. I own more guns than my kids want to inherit. I am a strong Second Amendment person, but this bill is not a good bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Further discussion? Senator Kolb.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I am standing with the good men of law enforcement. My elected sheriff, my elected county attorney, they're against this because of some of the aforementioned reasons. I think it's the wrong path. More is not always better. I think we're in search of a problem with a bill that we surmise we have no faith in our law enforcement elected officials that were elected by the people. And they're good folks. And that goes to the Highway Patrol, it goes to everybody, puts their life on the line every day. I believe they are strong Second Amendment supporters. I don't believe they go along with the federal overreach. Currently, there is laws in statute that prohibits cooperation for the seizure of guns. This goes a little bit further. And I aforementioned our ICE detainment, where I come from, is a huge regional situation. If you go and look at the jail track, you can find a bunch of ICE holds on there a lot of times. And they're helping, and that was ICE, I-C-E, ICE. I don't know what I said or what it sounds like, but obviously it was funny, so I'll just reiterate that. And it's an important part of the system to deal with, the deportation process, frankly, for people who have deportation orders, not just random folks picked off the street. So it's an important mechanism here locally that I certainly support. And when I'm told it's going to be detrimental to those law enforcement folks, I'll rise and support them. I realize there's a cost to everything, but I think it's important, and I stand with my law enforcement folks. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Boner.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Not to pile on too much, but in addition to listening to my own local law enforcement, I appreciate the perspective from the sheriff from Sweetwater County. We had a situation not too long ago where we were dealing with a very bad resource management plan in that area, and we actually had testimony from that same sheriff saying that he's willing to not cooperate in enforcing the mechanisms of that resource plan. And you could have heard the breath just being sucked right out of that room, Mr. President. It was a very serious thing for that sheriff to get up and say, and I think it probably had an effect on our federal partners. The bill that select committee crafted was based off of similar legislation that we've done in this area. So I'd like to think that it does have an effect, what we've already done. Do support our law enforcement. I appreciate all the thoughtfulness that has gone into previous iterations of the same concept. So for that reason, I'm going to be a no.
Okay. Senator Anderson.
Mr. President, I want to agree with the senator from Culpeper Creek. I'm against this bill also, and I'm going to vote against it so I can keep my rating down with the gun owners. I've got a very low rating. I got high inventory of guns, but a low rating. So I'll just vote against this and keep my rating. Thank you.
Senator Rothfuss.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, on and for the bill. Mr. President, it's interesting, this debate. And the reason it's interesting is because sometimes we kind of forget what the Second Amendment was actually put in for. We talk a lot about it. We pass a lot of bills with Second Amendment in the title, but we don't spend a lot of time, Mr. President, thinking about what it was put there for. It was not put there so that we can do what the federal government tells us to do. It was put there as a protection from the federal sovereign power as a tool of federalism to protect the individual rights of the people. That's why it's there. Now, we haven't had a lot of use for that, which is good, right? It hasn't come up a lot that we needed to use the Second Amendment for what the Second Amendment is for. We tend to just want to carry our guns around and hunt and things like that, which is handy because that means things aren't going badly. But the reason it was put in is for that concern of too much federal power and an assurance of protection of the citizens by the citizens. That's the check in place. That's the balance. That's why it's there. That's why we haven't gotten rid of it. So when I think about what I want our local law enforcement to do and what I want the people that are serving and protecting us in this state to do, when the feds say, hey, we want to take some guns, I don't want them to say, okay, sure, we'd love to be part of your project. Can we go along with you? Can we ride in your car? That's not what we need. The federal government seems to do a great job of managing its own business. When they want to prosecute, they get it done. When they want to do an investigation, they get it done. And when they want cooperation, we're going to cooperate. But if they come along and ask our law enforcement, the people of the state of Wyoming, the people that work and represent us, that serve and protect us, and say, hey, we'd like your help in getting some guns from the people of Wyoming, I'd kind of like them to say, hey, you know what? That's not what we do. You'd better have a good reason, because we're here to serve and protect the people of the state of Wyoming, not to do what the feds tell us to do. That's the purpose of the original Second Amendment Preservation Act. That's why I voted for it when it came through. That is the purpose of this bill, is to further refine it. This bill still has some loopholes. It doesn't necessarily go exactly where it needs to go. But at the end of the day, that's what it's pushing us towards. We don't just need more people working for the federal government. We need them working for us. This is a bill that works for us. On and for the bill.
Thank you. Let's do Senator Case in the back for your first time.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. You know, times are very different than they used to be. I've got a book here in one of my piles here that documents all the times that the federal government provided aid in domestic disturbances in our country. It didn't happen very often. It was a situation where the states said, we need help. Wyoming did it 2 times. We did it once when, up close to your neck of the woods, where Johnson County War. Governor was screaming for help. Please help in that situation. Another time was the Rock Springs Massacre. And so twice, federal troops assisted us in a domestic situation, but it was cooperative. We asked for it. We asked for it. There's a thing called posse comitatus. It says we shouldn't use federal troops in domestic situations. We've built this bill to protect the Second Amendment. But there are other amendments that we're forgetting about that are under attack, where our rights as citizens, the God-given rights of assembly, peaceful protest, be secure in search and seizure, to be secure in carrying firearms when you're in a peaceful protest. Those are all under attack across the country. I wish this were broader than the Second Amendment, because I think it's a time for the states to stand pretty tall. We all have to stand tall. There's an imbalance in the power. It's increased. It's between the federal government and the state government, and it's within our federal 3 branches of government itself. An extreme imbalance. No one's really doing anything about it. I'm scared. I'm worried. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
I
Senator
support
Case.
this bill.
Senator Kolb for your second time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Well, would I like to be an alchemist, put together a bunch of things and get gold out of it? I'm really, I guess, set back on the idea of what happened with the Rock Springs Massacre. I'd like to say I wasn't there. I'd like to say the federal government came in, as I believe, and quelled that situation. And it was I think, to be honest with you, it was a union situation back in the day that caused all this. However, we're not talking about that. I'm not going to bring in red herrings here. I'm just going to talk about facts. The reason why we have the Second Amendment really is because of the First Amendment. That's really why they exist. And I venture to say I'm a proud Wyoming citizen that I'm proud to say I don't know how many guns I have. And I think that's a moniker of a common Wyoming answer. So on that note, I'm surprised. I would like the body to take note of the people that have risen in support of this, my good colleagues, and maybe ask why. I would state there's more to it than maybe on the face of it. I think that everyone comes here with their honest opinions. My honest opinion is that the cooperation that we give with the feds is better than not cooperating with them as long as it benefits us. And that is the benefit to this situation we currently have. And the cooperation goes down to their core. I will also tell you that our sheriff did not go along with the quarantine orders in the state of Wyoming when the mask mandate was made. He refused and didn't take action when there was an order to take action. As stated with the BLM, if I could use that term, he refused to take action there also. Our folks are good people. They are not going to go sideways off the track. They are Wyoming people. And I stand with them, and I stand against this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, let's go Senator Landon in the back, and then we'll work our way up to the front.
Mr. President, thanks for the opportunity, and I always learn a great deal from all of my friends in this chamber. You know, I followed this all the way to this point, not quite sure where I was going to be, but after talking with my police guys and my sheriff, you know, it all comes down to this, Mr. President. This past year, I had a situation where I had constituents calling me, and it involved the sheriff. And boy, when I reached out, anytime I've ever reached out to my sheriff's department, they have jumped to help me with whatever situation I've got. Same way with our police force. Those are the guys I work with. And I trust them. And I trust them when they text me and email me to say, this bill isn't there. Don't do this. And I've got to go that way. So I'm going to support my sheriff, and I'm going to support my police chief.
Thank you, Senator. Let's see, who else? Senator Hicks, first
Mr.
time.
President, so if you have your bill handy, I'd like you to turn to page 3, because this is the substance of the bill and the debate we're having about the Second Amendment. So I'm just going to read this so the people out there in Wyoming can hear what the current law says. This state and all political subdivisions of this state are prohibited from using any personnel or funds appropriated by the legislature of the state of Wyoming or any other sources of fund that originated within the state of Wyoming, any federal funds or other sources of funds solely to enforce, administer, or cooperate with attempts to enforce, provide material aid, support, participate in a manner in the enforcement and implementation of any regulation of the United States. And here's the most important component of this, that infringes or impedes the free exercise of the individual guaranteed rights under the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. That's been deleted. That's deleted. It's no longer about protecting your Second Amendment rights, folks. We've deleted that out of the bill. What it now just says is if you provide material aid, support, or participate in a manner in the enforcement or implementation of any regulation in the United States solely for firearms, accessories, and ammunition. That's not the Second Amendment of the United States. We've struck that out of there. Are we going to defend the Second Amendment, or are we going to strike it out and just make this about certain firearms? Folks, there's a fundamental difference. This bill starts to diminish the protections under your Second Amendment rights because we've stricken the unconstitutional requirement out of there, and we've stricken the word Second Amendment rights. It doesn't do what I think it's been portrayed to do. On and against the bill.
Thank you. We'll go with President Beitman, then to the back of the room. Thank you. President Beitman.
Hey, thank you, Chairman. On and for the bill. Boy, there's a lot here to unpack, and I only have 5 minutes, so I'll go quick.
Start the timer, please.
I too support law enforcement. That shouldn't even be the question here. We're not debating whether we're passing the Second Amendment Preservation Act or Protection Act because it's already law. It's already law. And the fact that we're trying to close up loopholes to enforce said law, and now all of a sudden we have a problem with it, that's alarming. Because the people that supported the last law wrote it in such a way that the only way to enforce the law, it was a misdemeanor, and you'd have to rely on your county attorney to prosecute. This adds a cause of action. So if you were the ones who had your guns seized illegally, unconstitutionally, because your local government or your local law enforcement agency teamed up with the federal government in the way prescribed in the bill, we've all read it a million times, to violate your rights and take your guns solely for the purpose of a federal gun control order or law. Remember that. This isn't ICE participation. This isn't drug enforcement participation. The purpose of this bill is to prohibit local and state agencies from cooperating with the federal government solely for the purpose of enacting federal gun control laws, whether it's gun seizures, magazine bans, bump stocks, you name it, whatever is federal, let's not protect the state, whatever. Let's get back to what the bill actually does. We got current law, ladies and gentlemen, and we're trying to close a loophole in current law. And the fact that we're hearing wailing and gnashing of teeth over closing a loophole should say a lot if we're going to talk about questioning other people's motives. I do not question the motives of my Democrat colleagues who support civil liberties and the Constitution. They've always been with me on these issues. Always. Always. And I'm proud to stand with them on civil liberties. This is a civil liberties bill. It's a good bill. There's been a lot of mischaracterizations about what this bill does and does not do. Again, read the bill. And as Forrest Gump said, that's all I got to say about that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Nethercott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, to my good senator from Baggs's point that the bill has been diminished, I think it's important to go back to the purpose of the bill. There's so many gun bills, so many gun bills, year after year after year, that I do think that the point gets missed. And so how does this bill protect the Second Amendment? And I don't know that it protects the Second Amendment, but what it's trying to do is prohibit a federal order to come down that says we're going to go seize firearms. And your local acronym federal agency will partner up with their local law enforcement, which they do all the time, to fulfill that purpose. That's what this bill is trying to prevent or prohibit. So that's the language that was amended in to say you have a cause of action, not just if your Second Amendment rights are infringed upon, which is incredibly way too broad. Just put a pin in that in the event other legislation comes forward. Incredibly way too broad to have a cause of action for your rights to be infringed upon. And so in an effort to narrowly tailor down the type of cause of action that can be brought against an agency or an officer, and there is a criminal penalty in this bill draft, which is too much, that says solely connected to the seizure of firearms. That's really what it is. I mean, that language was just read to you, and it says solely regarding firearms, accessories, or ammunition against any law-abiding citizen. That is the key language for this bill that makes it even remotely palatable. So you have to have a law-abiding citizen. So if your local law enforcement officer is helping a federal agency enforce any kind of criminal action against a felon, that's not considered a law-abiding citizen. Although the definitions of that probably aren't clear enough if you're the local law enforcement officer who could lose their job over that decision because they'll be convicted of a crime, a misdemeanor under the bill. So those are, I'm just identifying the pros and the cons of the bill. So the bill is narrowly tailored. That's on page 4, line 4 and 5. That's the saving grace of the bill. Solely, that language solely regarding firearms, accessories, or ammunitions against any law-abiding citizen. So the purpose of the bill is to prevent a federal order or law being passed that says go seize the citizens of Wyoming's firearms and using any state resources, including people or monies, to do that. I think the concern from our law enforcement comes in, to the rest of the language in the bill that exposes specific liability, particularly in the definition of material aid. And there's a lack of maybe understanding of what it looks like on the ground for our local law enforcement who may be called to assist. And there's some exceptions that are acknowledged there, and those are really good exceptions that also strengthen the bill. But that material aid includes using your radio. So if one of those federal agencies is out effectuating a seizure of a gun order, and they need assistance, and you, the local cop, is in the area, and you use your radio, that could be considered material aid. Probably not, but it could be. And so if you're that local law enforcement agency, that's a lot to unpack in a 30-second decision or less, right, to evaluate. So I appreciate the intent of this bill, but if you have concerns about exposing our citizens to civil liabilities or crimes for decisions that they have to make on their jobs, then there's a whole lot of legislation that we're passing that's doing that, and wasn't passed yesterday that did the exact same thing. So if we want to be equal to everybody, you know, I don't know why our law enforcement would be any different than teachers, librarians, clerks, all types of different occupations in our state, of where we are creating these, or we are on this trend of creating all this civil liability. It's good for the lawyers. I'm not sure it's good for the people, but it is the only way, I think, to provide some type of security or prevention or deterrent to prevent state dollars or local law enforcement from being utilized in a direct action by the federal government for the sole purpose of seizing Wyoming's law-abiding citizens, firearms, ammunition, accessories. That's the purpose of the bill. And I do think it's narrowly tailored in such a way that there's a lot of protections there. As a lawyer, there are some concerning points, but there always is in this type of legislation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further discussion? Further discussion? Senator Ide, this is Senator Ide. Just a moment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's good discussion. Glad to hear from the good president on there. He's been in this trenches here, and the one from Bags as well. That, I think that earlier law, 22, I was kind of watching that from the sidelines, and I think that law does take care of that's been in place since 2022 of dealing with putting officers in jail if something goes awry. This bill specifically, to me, establishes, a framework for the citizens to, civilly sue agencies to try to get some, address their grievances. So I think there's a lot of things flying around here that I think is a little bit scare tactics, but this is just to, the civil enforcements that this bill brings to it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Ide. Senator Cooper. First time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The title of this bill seems to be pretty familiar. I think I voted yes on it a few days ago, but to me, the question right now is, do we support this bill, or do we want to stand by our Senate position on this bill? Can somebody kind of tip me on where we need to be? Are we going to move forward with both bills and then try to come to some agreement on the amendments, or what is the process from this point forward before we make this final vote?
Bruce. Thank you, Senator Cooper. We only debate one bill at a time. Senator Dockstader.
Thank you. As I recall, when we worked this through committee, we made an attempt to bring a law enforcement amendment to the bill, yet it was removed. I appreciate what's being said here, that we're trying to protect our Second Amendments. I want to do that too. I too have a collection of guns in my home too, and value that right, highly value that right. But I also want to coordinate with our law enforcement, and what we had in the beginning, at the committee level, was coordination with them. So I recall looking out across the group that came to visit us that day, I said, held up this amendment, is this what you bring to us, and this is what works for our law enforcement across the state? And it was a large group, and I got the head shake that it was a yes. So my concern is, I believe we've moved back from that now. So if someone from our legal field we've had a couple of them already speak, did we step away from making sure that our law enforcement was adequately protected? I stand with the Second Amendment all the way through, but I want to make sure that we are coordinating this with law enforcement as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dockstader. Anyone else? Anyone else want to speak? There's still half of you that haven't spoken. Senator Biden, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would go for my second time and then trade you spots here. My question is, I guess, at this point, you know, if you've got your collection of guns you're proud of, and you've got your back to blue hat that you're proud of, and something happens down the road and you vote this down, and say in 10 years from now, an executive order or a law comes down from the feds, and your local law enforcement cooperates with that federal agency and comes and takes that said collection of guns, and you're going to be like, well, I still support my law enforcement. Here you go. Take them. You have no recourse other than hoping maybe the county attorney will charge them with a misdemeanor if the current law holds. Good luck. But you won't be able to get an injunction. You won't be able to sue. You're done. So wear that back to blue hat. That's really, I hate to say it that way, but when you boil it down to what we're actually voting on, that's what it is. This just says, this protects our law enforcement from being put in that position in the first place. If our law is clearly defined and narrowly tailored, like the good attorney said, then there's boundaries, Mr. Chairman. There's boundaries there that say, nope, Wyoming's not going to participate, like the person behind me said earlier. We'll have our sheriffs and our police chiefs standing in front of us, holding the Constitution, protecting us, because they swore an oath to protect us. They will be out in front of us saying, no, go pound sand. We're protecting the Second Amendment rights of Wyoming citizens. So on for the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Further discussion. I see Senator Hicks rising. This is for the second time on this amendment. Senator Hicks.
Mr. Chairman, for my second time, I don't think we should diminish the criminal penalty because it's up to 1 year in prison and a $2,000 fine. So that's a pretty stiff penalty and a deterrent for your local law enforcement for going out there and colluding to take your guns, folks. But more importantly, I would ask each and every one of you. So we've had this on the books for going on 4 years now. And I understand the concern of the president. I think we all concern, going forward, what the federal government may or may not do. But I would ask each and one of you, in the last 4 years, have you heard of anybody that's exploited a loophole in the current law? Have you talked to your chiefs, your wardens, your highway patrol, your sheriffs, the deputies? Have you talked to your county and city prosecutors and your county attorneys and your municipal and your circuit court judges? And if there's a loophole out there, has it been exploited? I think this is more of a future-looking piece of legislation than something that's the actual current situation on the ground that we face today. I share my president's concern that sometime in the future that we may see an administration that do that. But let me tell you, under the current law, who your first line of defense is. And I think we would all agree. It's going to be those very people we just talked about. It's going to be those sheriffs. It's going to be those county attorneys. And until something material changes about the values of the state that I love, and I think you love, those people are going to stand in defense. So, do we have a loophole? I haven't seen one yet. Is there potentially one out there with future changes by the federal government? Maybe, probably, likely, could be. I have not seen a loophole yet. Let's stand with our judges, our county attorneys, the judicial system, the law enforcement that stands between you and an oppressive federal government today and has done a darn good job of doing it.
Thank you, Mr. President. So my question from earlier stands. I understand the purpose of mirror bills. I get it. Some of my constituents don't. So what is the procedure from this point if we pass this law, this bill, and they pass the bill down the hall here? If somebody could answer that for us and make that very clear, that'd be helpful. If I have to choose between one or the other, I'm going to choose to support the bill with my president's name on it rather than this one. Basically the same bill. I've already voted yes on it once. I don't know exactly, I know why, but there's a lot of people out there that don't know why this bill is here today and what the procedure is. If somebody could please explain that.
All right, question being called. House Bill 130, having been read 3 separate times, the question is, shall this bill pass the Senate? The Assistant Chief Clerk will call the roll.
Third reading roll call, House Bill 130. Anderson? No. Barlow? Aye. Boner? No. Brennan? No. Case? Aye. Cooper? No. Crago? No. Crum? No. Dockstetter? No. Driscoll? No. French? Aye. Garou? Aye. Hicks? No. Hutchings? No. Ide? Aye. Jones? No. Kolb? No. Landon? No. Larson? Aye. Love? Aye. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? Aye. Olson? No. Pappas? No. Pearson? No. Rothfuss? Aye. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? No. Scott? Aye. Steinmetz? No. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. House Bill 130, 13 aye, 18 no.
House Bill 130, having failed to receive the affirmative vote of the majority of the members elected to the Senate, House Bill 30 has failed, or 130 has failed to pass the Senate. Senator McEwen.
Mr. President, I move that the Senate resolve itself in a committee of the whole and pursuant to Mason's Section 187, 6K and Section 302, that the Senate establish the order of consideration of bills on general file by placing House Bill 10, sexually explicit materials in libraries and requirements, as the first item to be taken up on the committee of the whole.
Okay. Point of order.
Thank you, Mr. President. That motion is in order, but it is debatable. And when we have a chance, I'd like to debate, but.
Okay, I'm just trying to jot down what I need to get here. Ellen, did you catch that motion?
Does it require any seconds?
Okay. I see what you're up to. Okay, so because the committee of the whole is not on the Senate calendar for today and was not noticed for the day, this motion would change the Senate calendar and is not in regular order of business. Consequently, the motion will require a suspension of the rules, including Senate Rule 6-1, and a vote of 2/3 of the members duly elected is required. The motion is debatable, so who wants to go first? Do we need 3 seconds? No, it does not. Well, just in case, we've got 3, so we got more than 3. Okay, Senator McEwen, do you want to speak first to your motion? Or?
I don't know how to speak to this motion until we get to the bill.
Okay.
I think I would just be speaking to the bill at this time, which would probably not be in order.
That's right. This is on the motion solely, not the bill.
Everybody support it so we could talk about this. We didn't get a chance to see it in committee of the whole, and I think it's a worthwhile bill.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Senator Rothfuss, did you have on the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. On and against the motion, I understand the temptation certainly to suspend rules to pick up a bill when there's concern about a bill not being heard. Certainly not the first time that's been done. Probably won't be the last, but at the end of the day, we have to be thoughtful about our rules of order. We have to be thoughtful about whether we want suspensions of rules or whether we want to follow them. And this is something year in, year out that we see. There are always bills left on general file, and there's always someone among us that's concerned about the bills that are left on general file, and that's okay. It's part of the process. I think everybody who's been in here a few years has experienced that. And again, it's okay. It's going to work out. Good bills have an opportunity in the future, but we only have so much time, and we have a lot of work to do, even now. And we had a lot of work to do. I don't think this is a rule we should take lightly. I don't think this is a rule we should suspend lightly. I think it's appropriate for us to shut this down, recognize that yesterday was, by our rules, the last day for Committee of the Whole. We don't need Committee of the Whole today, and I would encourage the body to vote no.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking about the process, this is actually part of the process. This gives us the ability to do this. So this is part of the process. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Pearson. Senator Hicks?
Yeah, normally, Mr. President, I would concur with my colleague from Albany County, but there's one substantive difference that I think we need to take into consideration. This was a joint committee bill that came out of the Joint Judiciary Committee, and there was a tremendous amount of work that went into this, and it's the only committee bill that got timed out, and so it's a little bit different than an individual bill, and I think that needs to be taken into consideration. That typically, you know, we would debate these committee bills. They made introduction. There's a little bit of distinction than what something is normal, so I would just say in your decision, weigh that in the decision. I'd say let's at least give the committee an opportunity to explain the work that they did in the interim and sustain this motion, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Crago?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just was going to point out, actually 3 committee bills died yesterday, not just one. So it wasn't one single committee bill. There were 2 other committee bills that did not get considered. Thank you.
Senator Ide on the motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I'll just say, I think that it was brought up that we have a lot of important things to do and short on time, but I do believe we have the time, so I think we ought to hear the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Hutchings on the motion?
Chairman, I have all night, and I think this bill is very important. I received a lot of positive email on it, so I'm honored for this change. Thank you.
Okay. Senator Scott on the motion?
Mr. President, on the motion, but I can't really speak to the motion, I'm speaking a little to the bill.
Mr. President, on and against the motion, this bill has, frankly, a good regulatory scheme. The basic scheme is good. There's a lot of good in the bill. I hope to be able to work some amendments where it could be fixed. But, Mr. President, I think there's a flaw in the bill that is more complicated than we're going to be able to deal with. I think it really needs to go back through the process for another year, because there were some things in here that just didn't quite work. And I've looked at the amendments. I've tried to write amendments myself on this one. It's too darn complicated. And Mr. President, I don't think there's the time available in what's left of our session to do a good job. So I think we ought to reject the motion, sustain our rules, and I think the good part will come back next time, and hopefully the experience of what's happened so far will educate people on there's something in here that isn't quite working and needs to be fixed, and they need to get a compromise that does work.
Okay, anybody else? Senator Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. President. On and against the motion. I think that the thing I'd like to say is that we all had committee bills that went down. Back, my seatmate right here had a few the first day. I had some that we worked on in the interim. You know, we all think our bills are important that come out of our committees as well as our individual bills. And if it's truly a bill that, as the good senator here from Bates Creek mentioned, I had some issues with it in its, as I read through it. If it's a bill that's worthwhile, we can bring it back next year and work on it. I mean, I remember one bill, it took us 3 years to get it right, but we got it right finally. So I would say against this motion.
Senator Case on the motion.
Certainly, Mr. President. Mr. President, we had an opportunity to extend the debate on the Committee of the Whole yesterday with a majority vote. We just had to defeat the motion to rise and report, and we could have remained in Committee of the Whole. It's right there for us. We worked hard yesterday. I have been through 1 or 2 last days in the second house. It's always like this. It's always tough. It's always tough between the houses, and it's tough on our leadership to make the decisions. We worked pretty darn hard yesterday. Mr. President, we started before lunch. And we went to the late in the evening. Mr. President, we had our chance to do it at 50%. I don't see how we could possibly decide now that with a 2/3 vote, we want to revisit yesterday. So I'm anxious to see how this comes out. I'm a no vote.
Anybody else on the motion? All right. Seeing no further debate, the chief clerk will call the roll. This requires a 2/3 majority of those elected to the Senate.
Roll call on the motion regarding House Bill 10. Anderson? No. Barlow? No. Boner? Aye. Brennan? No. Case? No. Cooper? No. Crago? No. Crum? No. Dockstetter? No. Driscoll? No. French? Aye. Garou? No. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? Jones? Aye. Cole? Aye. Landon? No. Larson? Aye. Love? No. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? No. Olson? No. Pappas? No. Pearson? Aye. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? No. Scott? No. Steinmetz? Aye. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. On the motion, 13 aye, 18 no.
Motion to suspend the rules has failed. Senator Pearson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate resolve itself into Committee of the Whole and pursuant to Mason's Section 187(6)K and Section 302, that the Senate establish the order of consideration of bills on general file by placing HB 157, Protection of Parental Rights, Cause of Action, as the first item to be taken up on Committee of the Whole.
Okay. Debate, discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Chief Clerk will call the roll. There's more than 3 seconds.
On the motion regarding House Bill 157, suspension of the rules, Anderson? No. Barlow? No. Boner? No. Brennan? No. Case? No. Cooper? No. Crago? No. Crum? No. Dockstetter? No. Driscoll? No. French? Aye. Guru? No. Hicks? Aye. Hutchings? Aye. Ide? Aye. Jones? Aye. Kolb? Aye. Landon? No. Larson? Aye. Love? No. McEwen? Aye. Nethercott? No. Olson? No. Pappas? No. Pearson? Aye. Rothfuss? No. Salazar? Aye. Schuler? No. Scott? No. Steinmetz? Aye. President Beitman?
Aye.
Aye. Closing vote. Closing. Vote closed. On the motion, 12 aye, 19 no.
Motion to suspend the rules to go into Committee of the Whole has failed, 12 to 19. All right, Madam Majority Floor Leader, that clears the desk. Floor is yours, Senator Case.
Mr. President, yesterday on the debate about a bill regarding recall of local officials, I don't know where I was, but everything I said was wrong when I got out of the chair. And I should have fact-checked myself first. I sent everybody a memo that the LSO did several years ago on recall. It was not my best work, and I'm terribly sorry to the Senate. And I wanted to let you know that, and I sent that memo out this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Case. Senator Hutchings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to let the body know that Senator Case came to me late last night and apologized. Thank you.
Class act. Thank you. All right, Senator Barlow.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a point of inquiry. How many legislative days do we have? I know we just had several motions from the floor to potentially extend a committee of the whole. And as a former presiding officer at the other end, some of those same motions were made, and we got to deal with that at the other end of the hallway. So how many legislative days so that we can actually, if we know that now, we have available to us in this budget session constitutionally to carry out our work so that we can actually understand, and the public can understand, whether it was actually possible to carry out the work that those motions asked us to carry out. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Barlow. We are on the 19th day. We had 21 available. And we have 2 extra available because we cut and run early last year. So we have 23 total. We would have had time, I think, technically. Okay, we ready to go home? Madam Majority Floor Leader.
Are you ready? All right. Mr. President, I move that we stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Thursday, March 5th.
Announcements?
Thursday?
Senator Case.
Couple of announcements, Mr. President. Your conference committee on Senate File 28 will meet tomorrow morning in one of the two rooms right down below us, and it's going to happen at 9 o'clock.
Thank you. Senator, oh, sorry.
More.
Sorry.
Your Select Committee on Legislative Facilities and Technology will meet tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 to take up interim topics.
Thank you. Senator Landon.
Mr. President, reminder to the Select Committee on School Facilities, we'll meet at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's our quarterly meeting, and then we will follow with a discussion about interim topics. I don't have the room number in front of me. We'll be down in the connector. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Landon. Any other announcements? Senator Olson.
Yeah, Mr. President, your committee number 1, Judiciary, will meet tomorrow upon noon recess in W002 to hear interim topics.
Thank you. Senator Ide.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Just for the second time, tomorrow, Joint Agriculture will meet in room 5 downstairs at noon recess to discuss interim topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ide. Any other announcements? Senator Larson.
Mr. President, I think management audit is meeting interim topics like today, 4 to 6.
Oh.
I'm not sure which room.
Okay. It is E5 and online, 4 p.m. management audit to select interim topics.
Room E5, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further announcements? You've all heard the majority floor leader's motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. The Senate shall stand adjourned until 10 a.m.